Okay, well, I'm here with Zayneb. And is it fair to say that we're going to explore the whole idea of kind of connecting a bit more or reconnecting with the piano? Is that where we are, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely.
So we've only met once, and we did touch on a little bit of improv. And I think it kind of, for me, improv is like it's the mother of everything, really. Technique, connectedness, joy, you know. But some people find the idea of it like absolutely terrifying. So I don't know. Have you got any experience with improv, or just remind me, or how do you feel about it?
No experience at all, and I feel quite daunted by it.
I think that's quite normal. I mean, I definitely wouldn't describe myself as a natural improviser by any stretch. But I think it's kind of weird, isn't it, that we do feel that self-consciousness because in principle, improv should be the least scary of all because there's literally no such thing as a mistake. So you can be in control of anything and everything.
Yeah, I yes. Um, I haven't thought of it that way, and it's a strange thing to think of because I'm used to playing. Um, I'm used to noticing mistakes and being on high alert for mistakes. So that idea that there can't be a mistake is new. Yeah.
Sounds quite liberating to me. That's very interesting. Yeah, high alert. Yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely was for all my time at music school and probably yeah, most of my performing life until my 30s, I was definitely on high alert for mistakes. Anyway, so yeah, so I always think it's nice to have like a flow. So if we're thinking about connecting and just kind of making friends with the piano and all of that kind of stuff, I think it's nice to have a flow. I avoid the term workflow. For me, work is different. I definitely think piano playing involves a lot of concentration, absorption, all kinds of things. And I know lots of people are very proud of how much work they put in their practice. But for me, work is something else. Like, exercise is something, meditation is something, and practice is something else. So I like play flow. So I thought we might try a little play flow. And I think it's always nice to start on the black keys on the what's known as the pentatonic or five tone scale. I don't know whether some kids actually start with that, like they play tunes on the black keys. I mean, I don't know whether have you got any experience of playing on black keys using the pentatonic scale, or do you know anything about it, or have you experienced it anyway? Do you think?
Don't really know anything about it except that when I was a kid and first, uh, before I had any kind of lessons,
Oh
ev-
yeah,
that was all on the black keys, and that was the first. They were the first notes that yeah that I
yeah.
played.
That tune, my dad used to play that. I think that was the only thing he remembered on the piano. Interesting. I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah, I don't know. The vamp. Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. I just everybody could play it, and that was the thing that they showed me, and it was all on the black notes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think probably it's considered the pentatonic scale, the five tone scale, is considered probably the most universal pitch range. Um, like you get it in West African xylophones, the adjacent notes are tuned to a pentatonic scale often. You get it in Southeast Asian music, you get it in African American spirituals, of course, and it's incredibly versatile. So, like, you can get a sort of a really nice sort of jolly sort of major sound, but you can also like get quite a profound sort of minor sound as well. And things like, did you know, like you can play things like Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, just only on the black keys? I don't know whether everybody knows that or anybody knows that. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that it's not just a kids thing. It's a really beautiful, incredibly versatile musical environment. So I thought what we do is let's see if we get a sort of flow going. And why don't we start with individual melodies? And let's use two hands completely freely. So we'll play a one line melody, the like of which you probably normally play with one hand, but we'll just share it between the hands. And we'll kind of respond to each other because I think it's important that I put myself on the line as well. So basically, you could either give me a mood like calm or happy or spiky or angry or whatever, and I'll start and I'll make a little tune like, the equivalent of 2 bars, but I don't want to think too much about exactly 2 bars, but just a really short tune, and I'll start and then you can go second. Or you can take full control and just make a little tune on the black keys yourself, and then I'll respond to you. So basically, do you want to go first or second?
I'll go second.
Okay. But can you give me a mood, an atmosphere, just anything at all?
Yeah, peaceful.
Okay. So let's just throw it back and forth. So I'm just literally going to use whatever black keys are in front of me. There's absolutely no right, no wrong, no mistakes exist. And I'll just play a peaceful tune. I'm just going to use my two hands however I feel like it.
Do you want me to play it back to you?
No, 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 that would be really cruel. No. So just no, because I think, unless we lived in Hungary in the 1970s and 80s, like post Kodai, who absolutely revolutionized children's education so that it's all about ear training and produced the greatest, children's choirs in the world. If we don't have a background in lots of ear training, I think that takes time to build up. So just like if we're having a conversation, we would just say different things to each other. So I'll say something, and then you literally use any black keys, any order, and just treat it as an experiment. Just kind of just play on them and just notice how it sounds like. You might like it, you might not like it, and then I'll say something back to you, just anything at all. And then your reply, you could either think, oh, I like that sound and play that again, or literally just be random.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start with my peaceful tune. Okay, here we go. So this time, let's move from this notion that the right hand has to play in the sort of in the treble range and the left hand has to play in the bass range. Let's really focus on melodies. Let's use loads of adjacent notes and let's see if we can find melodies that we love, that we can repeat, that we can remember. So let's use both hands, but in a really narrow range. Maybe just the five black keys in front of you, maybe C sharp and then up. So, and let's see if we can find our best melodies. Just purely again by experimenting, but just a melody that we could, like our own sort of swing low, sweet chariot. A really nice little melody. Shall we give it a go? Are you happy with the peaceful atmosphere, or do you want to change it to something else?
It can get a little bit more upbeat, yeah.
Okay, okay. So we're trying to find a melody by trial and error that we like, and that we could say to a child, "Oh, you know, let's learn this melody." Okay. Do you want to go first or second? Okay. So both of ours are now quite complicated. So let's sing, let's think along the lines of how can I play a melody that I could remember, that I could repeat if I needed to. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a kind of ideal melody that we can use for something else. So let's do a couple more or a few more. And when you arrive at something that you like, can you tell me and just say, oh yeah, I like that one. Let's stick with that one for a moment. And then we'll both repeat it a few times. But obviously it can't be too complicated, otherwise I'll forget it for a start. Okay.
I like that one.
Fabulous. Can you remember it?
No, I can't remember now. That.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. Do, mi, re, mi, la. I'm just singing it to myself so I remember it. Now, part of connecting is feeling like we know what we're doing. And I know that seems a bit perverse given the fact that we're improvising and so we don't know what we're going to do. But the great thing about improvising is that, as I said, there's no mistakes, so you can just play whatever and it's fine. And if you want to take that further, choosing one of your own tunes is great because that is a great starting point and you're in control, you know what you're going to play. And let's just play that in a couple of ways. So let's play your little tune. Da, 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 da. Let's play it with alternating index fingers. So one, then the other.
Okay.
And you set the rhythm. So feel some kind of beat. I mean, you don't need to overthink it, but just set it up so that you set the mood, you set the speed, you set the atmosphere, and when I repeat it, I want to repeat it just exactly as it should be. Try it with alternating third fingers. Oh, nice. Da 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 da. Oh, so it's got a different feel now. Yeah, really nice. Can you play it with two hands, doubled up, so the same tune in both hands? So right hand an octave higher or left hand an octave lower? Just using any fingers that come naturally, so however you want.
Okay.
And just a couple more so that you don't, feel like we're doing this tune too many times. Can you gently clasp your hands and play it in slow motion with a gentle downward sort of chop? I call this knocking the pegs, like when you knock in tent pegs. So this is like a mallet, but we're just going to do it gently in slow motion. So if you watch me,
Don't know if that's it. Yep.
yeah, beautiful. And this time, just as a playful um, activity, just to kind of finish this little section on the melody alone, can you spread the notes out randomly in pitch? So the first one's at one pitch, the second one's at another pitch, something like this.
Okay.
Yeah, beautiful. How does that feel?
Uh, yeah, never done anything like that before.
Okay. So the that's knocking the pegs from the Piano Portal's 1 minute workouts, and there's so much potential for these because they're kind of diagnostic in terms of whether you're holding on to any excess tension in your upper body or forearms, but they're also a playful way of starting to reconnect and allow your torso to help you with playing, which is so crucial in technique. And so it's something that we can introduce just as a sort of fleeting moment. And then it's something that could be definitely explored in future. So let's add a drone to the tune. And this time we'll start with your tune, but so you so you don't get bored with that bit, we'll add to it. So we'll start with your tune in the right hand, and let's try it with different drone notes in the bass. So by drone notes, I mean just single bass notes that last throughout the whole thing. So I've got five to choose from, five black keys in the left hand. I'll just experiment. I'll use an F sharp, I'll try it out with an F sharp, see if that's nice, and then maybe I'll try different black keys, something like E flat. Do you want to try it out? So just play the tune in your right hand and experiment with different long bass notes and choose one that you like, basically.
So you did.
And just go with that. If something different happens, go with it. It was nice. Yeah, and maybe try all the bass notes, see which one you prefer.
I like that one. I like that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, fantastic. So if you had to kind of characterize your tune, like what's the mood, the atmosphere of it with that bass note? So, I mean, it does it bring up any images or thoughts or feelings or colors, or if you were to give it a title, what sort of ballpark are we in, or anything at all?
Um, it I can't say exactly why, but it reminds me of when I lived in Japan.
Really interesting. Oh, beautiful. Any particular sort of environment? Are we talking urban, rural, or does it bring up any particular associations?
Um, just that it yeah, sounds a bit cheesy, but it reminded me of being quiet in a temple.
Yeah, yeah. So this time we'll start with that tune, start with your chosen bass note, and then keep repeating the bass note whenever you want. So either every phrase or just whenever it dies away or whenever you feel like it. And then just keep adding phrases. Don't try too hard. Just wander around. So maybe start with yours and then just have a wander. And you might want to pedal it a bit just to kind of give it a bit more of a musical atmosphere, but whatever you want. Don't overthink anything.
No. Mm. I want to go up here.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, absolutely wonderful. So, if there were to be a dance to it, like, who's that pop singer who had the dancer? The one who covered her face. What's her name? Oh, I can't remember. David Guetta, Titanium, featuring.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
begins with S. Can't remember her name. Anyway, Sia. Yeah. So she had that famously had that collaboration with the dancer. So if you had your own dancer, how would they dance to that music? Can you picture it? You don't have to describe it, but could you picture something if you wanted to?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I noticed is that because we're talking about reconnection and connectedness, I mean the thing that really helped me to get away from that mindset of feeling like I had to get things right, feeling kind of a bit sort of, I don't know, clammed up or whatever when I was performing or playing was to just get into my body a bit more. And obviously the major drawback of playing the piano is that we sit at the piano like this and the piano's there and we it's possible to play it with our hands and fingers. But of course nobody does in real life. I mean, I don't know whether do you have any memories of playing where you kind of lose yourself and kind of just feel like, at one, talking of cheesiness.
Yeah, but only as a child.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So obviously it's a very artificial situation because we don't know each other and we're we're doing this on Zoom and blah 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 and I'm suggesting things for you to try for the first time. But can you glimpse a potential for exploring some of these things by yourself and maybe finding your own sort of flow, your own zone, perhaps where your torso just starts to respond a bit more, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. um, so what about adding a fifth to your bass notes? So if you were to so just to finish off this kind of pentatonic improvisation, so instead of a single bass note, let's experiment with fifths. So how many possible fifths are there? One, two, three, four. So you can make four fifths on the sounds like a fraction on the black keys. So for example, you could play F sharp and C sharp.
Yeah.
Can you play them for us? Yeah, that's it. And then if you move that up one, you've got whatever that is, A flat and E flat.
A flat and E flat. B
Yeah,
flat.
so if you just move it up one,
Yeah, so
yeah. And then if you move that down one and then down again, basically you've got all the possible fifths that you could have.
yeah, so
Yeah, that's it. Uh, yeah, and there was one above the one that you started. So if you start on, like, if you put your little finger on C sharp and play C sharp and G sharp, or D flat and A flat if you prefer. So if you play that one first, and then if you move it up one, you've got the E flat one. And if you move it up again, you've got F sharp or G flat at the bottom. Yeah, and then if you move it up one more, you've got A flat at the bottom. Yeah. So let's pick some of those to go with your tune. Anything. Why don't you experiment with all of them or any of them and see if there's one of those that you like?
go.
Yeah, and if your tune morphs, that's fine. If it stays the same, that's fine. So just go with it, see what happens.
Quiet.
Yeah, beautiful. What did you think?
I could have kept going, yeah. Just, uh, yeah, it was nice playing the chords. Yeah, richer.
I think a drone of a single note is nice, but it has its limitations sort of musically. A fifth is really nice because so that's the interval for anybody who's watching an interval of five notes or a gap of five notes in the scale, like the do to the sa. Um, it's quite nice because it kind of gives a sort of grounding, a basis, a base really, for the song. Um, and it means you don't have to faff around with finding chords like with more than two notes. But talking of chords with more than two notes, I think one absolute key for me was to find music that kind of is a bit more infectious for my body to kind of get me into more of a rhythm. I did a session like this with a lovely chap called Felix, and he was playing a very slow piece by Ravel, and he found that one of his ways in to feeling more control and communicative and, you know, absorbed in the music was to play this slow piece in more of a kind of samba inspired rhythm. Can you sort of mess around with the chords a bit? Like maybe go back to the whole texture and, I don't know, just play it as chords or put some different rhythms in. So, not necessarily with all the repeated notes, but just maybe, I don't know, messing around with the chords as if it's a slightly different style. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Of course.
And so, you know, it's nice to juxtapose things which kind of bring you into a peaceful place with things which kind of make you feel a little bit more engaged rhythmically. Um, so I think you said before that that you like the song Mary. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen, which I can hardly say. Mary, don't you weep? Is that it?
Mary, don't you weep. Yeah, so Bruce. Lots of people have done it, but Bruce Springsteen does a version as part of his album.
Yeah,
Uh,
fabulous.
he does
So songs like that are ideal. You know, anything. Because didn't you say that it was part of the Sega sessions, which I remember having a book as a child with some songs, and they said Pete Seeger on them, but I think a lot of those weren't actually written by Pete Seeger. They were actually traditional folk songs.
Yeah, it's the same with this one, and lots of people have done it. I think Aretha Franklin and yeah, lots of people. Um, yeah, but Bruce Springsteen, I think, does a great version.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So the great thing about songs like this, especially kind of traditional songs or simple songs, you know, the like of which, you know, Bob Dylan might have sung as well, you know, from the 60s or 70s, is that they often are based on very few chords, often chord one, chord four, chord five from a scale. Um, and the great thing about that is that you can not have to think too much about the theory or finding all the notes or anything like that. Um, and you can actually just sort of start engaging with the process a bit more easily than a complicated jazz standard, for example, like "Fly Me to the Moon," which has got dozens of chords. If you play, um, I always think it's nice to set out your ingredients before, you know, like a celebrity chef who's got them all in nice little dishes. So if you think of a scale as ingredients, basically, for a song, and if you just play the 8 notes of an A minor scale, can you do that now? Just nice and steady. Keep the same sort of atmosphere that you had with your song. Just nice and steady. Don't even bother coming down again. Just play the 8 notes, lay them out. Nice. And can you put an A minor fifth in the left hand, just as a kind of drone? So if you play A and E, the first and the fifth from the scale, just as a fifth, like you did in your improv, and just stick it down with the first note of the scale, just to give the scale a bit of backing or context. Yeah, nice. And can you do it with the harmonic minor? So sharpen or raise the penultimate note, the seventh note. Same thing, but just with G sharp basically. Yeah, nice. And this time, can you just have a wander around in the scale? So sometimes change direction. So play your fifth in the left hand, start the scale, and then just sometimes have a wander around. I don't know.
Still consecutive notes, but
Whatever you like. I mean, I did just to make it really easy for myself, but anything you like, really. Just explore. Imagine you're in a wood or a environment, a new environment, and you're just having a look around. Oh, I love that last bit. Yeah, sometimes really good ideas come by accident. Yeah. Now this time, can you move the fifth from the A up to the D? So you've got a D fifth instead, so D and A. So think of it in terms of chord one would be A, so then four would be D, and if you just play it as a fifth, and then chord five would be E. So could you play those three different fifths?
so
So that represents chord one. Yeah, so that represents chord four, D. Yeah, and this time, just move them around as well. So you can have a wander in your scale, and then when you get bored of one fifth, just change to the others. And I was actually only using just the first three notes there of the scale, so you don't have to feel obliged to be complicated or use the whole scale or anything. And what I should have said before is completely abandon any notion that you should use correct fingering for the scale. I think you probably didn't try to do that anyway, but just use any fingers that come.
um, so and it doesn't matter where I start. But
No, absolutely. And just change the fifth if you want, when you want. I just use two different ones. You could use two or three or stick with one.
right, I'll just start like that. Mm, I started with yeah. Something started. I started playing the three notes in the chord as well. Just yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So you anticipated my next suggestion, which was to add the middle note, and then you do actually have chords one, four, and five from the scale. So again, things that happen spontaneously because of your musical experience to date are great, and just embrace them. So just one last time, this time, just play using the three note chords. And with the just play those three chords. So chord one, chord four, chord five, just as what we call triads. So with three notes, leapfrog, leapfrog. Yeah, beautiful. And when you play chord five, you've got two choices. You could either play what you played, just play what you played, so that would be E minor, or you could sharpen the middle note, which is the purpose of the harmonic minor, which is the purpose of that sharp note in the scale, which sometimes occurs in songs, sometimes it doesn't. But it gives you a major chord five, which is rather nice. Just try that major chord instead. So really be very simple in the right hand. Just maybe use, I don't know, maybe even the first five notes of the scale or whatever you want. Just very simple wandering in the scale. And this time accompany yourself with any of those four chords. So you've got one, which is A minor, four, which is D minor, five, which could be minor five or major five. So just mix them up, anything you like.
Mm, woo. There was something that I liked just then. It's nice. It's better, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the joy of this because if you like something, you could linger over it or repeat it or come back to it or even get your phone and record it so you can play it another day, um, or quickly notate what chord sequence you played. Any of these options. And then if you don't like something, you can just wander away from it. You can just notice, okay, so that in my mind doesn't fit, so I'll just wander to something else. And if you keep listening, you'll organically sort of build up more of a sense of what sounds are where. Um, the 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 primary school training scheme, Jolly Music, for whom I'm a trainer, they it's basically a British embodiment of the principles of Zodan Kodai from Hungary, whom I mentioned earlier. And those kids have a massive head start with this because they already kind of have a memory bank of sounds. So they kind of know where sounds are when they come to play the piano. Um, anyway, so probably the likes of you and I haven't had that benefit. So we need to start with experimentation and then gradually sort of build up our experience. So just to finish off then, let's just try playing let's just try playing something energetically using those chords. So if you play, can you play from the Mary Don't You Weep, the chord sequence? Um, in fact, do you want to write it down, or did you write it down earlier?
I think so. I think it was
So
one
I've yeah, go on.
551 4151.
Yeah. So I just drew a little grid for myself. Yeah. So let's play those with the right hand. So can you play A minor and then E major, and it will be major five in this particular context because I've listened to the song. So just play them in the right hand, and I think maybe I don't know about four beats each, sort of da do da da 1 2 something like that.
So
Yeah, great. Yeah. I think there's one extra one on the second line. I think you said 4-1 and then 5-1.
Yeah.
Not that it matters for this context, yeah? Now can you do that, but can you put the bottom note, the bass note of the chord quite low down in the left hand? So double up the bottom note. So if you're playing an A minor chord, play the whole chord in the right hand and then double up on the bottom note, the A in the left hand. So quite low, wherever it sounds good. Try that. Just
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and then my top tip is basically pretend that you're a drummer and just have a little drum with. You could start with just the left hand. So imagine some kind of beat. If I do it, it's going to come across as some kind of, you know, EDM cliche, like electronic sort of dance music kind of. Anyway, regardless of what that sounds like, you can't deny that I'm playing. I'm really playing the piano. I'm letting my inhibitions go. So what you could start with is just maybe just beat out the pulse in the left hand, something like. And then if you fancy doing something else with your left hand, just, I mean, there are an infinite number of rhythms. You don't want to be thinking about it, but just if you feel like your body wants, I don't know. Do you want to humour me and just have a little go?
So, uh,
What we should have done is listen to the song and got the beat of the song again. But you've maybe got it in your mind already because I didn't really know the song well. So you could either just make it up and make it your own rhythm, or you could imagine the song and then sort of just beat some kind of thing in the left hand. The
yeah.
most important thing is not to overthink it. Just see what happens.
It's gonna be a mess.
That's great.
And the song is
Brilliant. Okay, so that's perfect. So, therefore, you could keep that in the left hand and then maybe just stick in another right hand chord sometime somewhere. If you does that piano, we'll finish in a couple of minutes, but if does that piano have a floorboard that pulls out over the keys?
yeah.
Yeah. So if you put that there for a minute, and then if you pretend this is your left hand playing the bass, and this is the right hand playing the chords, just play a couple of chords like that. Exactly what you just did, but on the floorboard.
Just like that. So,
Yeah,
can you hear it? Can you hear it?
yeah.
Uh,
Just exactly what you just did. That's it. And don't hurt your fingers by trying to keep any kind of finger position. Just literally just tap as if it's a, you're patting a horse or something. That's great. And then this time, can you just, if you kind of just feel the rhythm of a bit of the song, does your right hand want to go anywhere else? Like just add a tiny little, I don't know. I don't know. I'm really not thinking about it, but I'm putting you on the spot, which is very unfair.
The song is something like,
Yeah, great. So when you do that, can you? Because what you're doing is you're very carefully playing it just with a nice, beautiful, graceful little flick of the wrist there. Which it's just an observation. That's just a neutral observation. But can you imagine that you're Bruce up on the stage with his guitar and you've got, kind of. In other words, allow yourself, just allow, without damaging your piano, of course, allow yourself to use your arm.
wow.
And then let's try that on an A minor chord, or whichever chord you want.
Um,
It's wonderful. So look, I've got to thank you for being such a great sport and trying out all of these things. Um, I think the ultimate aim would be to find your own groove, your own flow, in either some improvisation, you could use a pentatonic, or in some kind of simple song using chords. You could use those chords, but you could make them your own. You could play the chords in the left hand, play a little A minor tune in the right hand, or you could somehow reproduce the song and pretend you're in the backing people, in the band, and you're the rhythm section or whatever. Um, but the ultimate aim, obviously, when you're on your own and because I mean, I have to say that I never ever felt 100% comfortable in any kind of piano lesson. I only started to find my own voice, my own flow, when I stopped all piano lessons. I'm sorry to all the piano teachers out there, but I think it's because I had, sort of a good 8, 9, 10 years of regular piano lessons, and I was a very self-conscious person as a teenager. And when I went to my American teacher, she used to sit miles away on her couch in her lovely apartment in Manhattan. And she used to just say, "Look, I just want to enjoy it. I'm just going to sit over here and listen. Forget I'm here." But I couldn't because of the baggage that I'd had, all these years. So it was only when um, I spent a lot of time by myself exploring some of these things, and and started to play, especially folk songs, and just kind of make my own accompaniments to them, that I kind of found my own groove. And the great thing is that, like the cliche of the teenager in the bedroom doing their own thing with their guitar, the more you do that kind of stuff, the more you actually feel able to do it in front of people and in public. Well, that's what I found anyway. So that was my just little biographical spiel there. So any kind of thoughts or feedback, or is anything of like that of any potential use, do you think, moving forward?
Lots of use. Yeah, I had a completely different feeling approaching playing this way. Yeah. And it's nice to be away from reading the music. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, my question would be, what next? Just keep playing. Just build on that, I guess.
Well, I'm a great fan of juxtaposing, which is my favorite word of all time. So basically, you want to find things you love to play that connect you with the piano, and these are just some simple ideas, and ultimately, if you then want to play, actual composed songs or piano pieces or whatever in any style, I would find ways in to a more connected state, a more flowing, absorbed, unself-conscious state. And then ultimately, if you want to return to playing more classical pieces, or even next week or tomorrow, you know it would be a case, I suppose, of exploring ways of finding that, what Abby Whiteside, my ultimate guru, my teacher's teacher, she called the emotional rhythm. So if I'm playing a little piece of Purcell, I mean, now that is as much me and mine as it is Purcell's. And when I perform it, I feel like I'm going to a special, safe, sacred space inside myself, and I'm sharing of myself. And that is an absolute country mile away from how I used to feel when playing a classical piece of music for a teacher or for an exam or for a competition. I had to get it right, and of course I aspire to play it with all the right notes. But my way to that is to build the self confidence first. And so, with things like that, I'll play it in different ways. I'll maybe improvise on that, or I mean, that's a whole other session as to how you get there with another piece or particular pieces. But there's definitely scope, I think, for marrying the two and finding roots in to a more personal, expressive zone, and then just allowing that to kind of, opening little, taking stones away from a little dam, and so bits of water, and then everything flows. Again, in my session with Felix, he said that what we were doing in the context of exploring Ravel and Chopin was rubbing off on his jazz playing as well, you know. So you can but sort of suck it and see, so to speak, and sort of give it a try and see how you feel.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, thank you. It's wonderful that you've as I said, been a great sport and explored these things.